Good evening, everyone. Great to have you back. On this week's show, we welcome Andy Bennett. She covers sports on Daybreak on CBC, as well as Jay Farrar, radio personality for TSN 690. On our Four Down segment this week, we talk about headshots. Are there more of them or more attention on them? On our Pretender or Contender segment, we're talking about first-line centerman for the Montreal Canadiens, David Desharnais. Is he a pretender or a contender? I also face off against NHL great Bernie Nichols. You don't want to miss it. It's happening right here, right now. It's time to read between the lines. Are there more headshots in the NFL or NHL, or is there more attention on them? On this week's Four Downs, we're talking concussions in professional sports. As always, we invite you to join the conversation at facebook.com/RBTL Sports, as well as on Twitter @RBTL Sports. We welcome to the show our first female panelist, Andy Bennett, covers sports over at Daybreak on CBC. Great to see you. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
To your right is Jay Farrar, radio personality at TSN 690. They're very outspoken. Heard a lot about you. Great to see you on the show. Thanks for taking the time.
Thank you.
To my left is David Hurley, RBTL contributor and co-host. Great to see you.
Great to be back.
Concussions. It's been a sticking point in professional sports for a very long time. Are there more of them, or is there more attention on them?
Oh, there's definitely a lot more attention on them. I mean, especially in the NFL. If you look since 2009 to 2014, we've had over 25 cases, or 52 cases, excuse me, of CTE after death. So what they've been doing is they had the lawsuit for $750 million, which is horrible. So since 2009, you look at the stats in a game, you had an average of 6 players that had concussions per game, and now in 2014, we're looking at 16 players per game. So there's definitely a little bit more knowledge since they had that settlement for $750 million. So there is a lot more attention. People are more aware to it.
But is there not a double standard in the sense that you look at Jeremy Roenick and how many concussions he's suffered over the course of his career? It was never labeled a concussion. It's one of the reasons
that he knows about.
They didn't exactly. They didn't know what it was about. So do you feel that that plays into the numbers and this whole hype up about being concussion, obviously being so quick to judge it as a concussion?
Well, there's. I mean, it's a matter of misdiagnosis or non-diagnosis. If you go back to the 70s, the word concussion meant you're okay. You can go back into the game now. It used to be like, the player get injured, he'd go back in the locker room.
Ice pack.
Yeah, is my brain coming out of my skull? No, dude, you have a concussion? Get back in there, man. Yeah. You're fine. You're not going to remember half of your career, but you're going to be okay. It's just that now the science has advanced enough, and now they can finally diagnose and see what's going on with these guys. And, it's just a little bit more precise. So the diagnosis is there, you get it more and more and more, and that's why you're hearing more and more about it. And they're discovering how dangerous it is as well. Whereas back in the day, just briefly, you can hear it in some of the players that were playing in the 60s and 70s. If you hear Jim Brown talk,
they're like punch drunk.
Yeah.
Well, there was that season a couple of years ago. There was this, a rash of former enforcer deaths, and a lot of these guys donating their brains to science. And I think that's the problem now, is that we just don't know. You don't know if there were more concussions back then because it was just called getting your bell rung. We don't even know how many concussions there are now, and they still don't even know the real effect of concussions and cumulative concussions.
And I don't think they've done a lot to prevent them either, right? We've only done about 10%. There's a study that came out saying that the steps that have been taken is very minimal. I mean, the leagues are not stepping up to the plate here, because per game, it's still sitting about 5.8, 5.9 concussions per 100 games, and that hasn't changed over the last 5-6 years. So you think more is being done, but really
they're starting to act on it. And you mentioned the lawsuit in the NFL, and that's been a huge thing to get people talking about it and force them to do something about it, because you're hitting them where it hurts in the pocketbook. But I mean, everything is sort of like the NHL concussion protocol that has been revised. But we saw as recent as last season in the playoffs where that concussion protocol was not followed. If you actually read the protocol, with that hit to Dale Weiss, he was back out on the ice. He was supposed to go to the quiet room, and he was back out on the ice. I think it was under 5 minutes.
How much responsibility lands on the player?
A ton. I mean, they know what's going on, and they know their own bodies. I mean, at one point they have to acknowledge there's more to life after than your hockey career. That's why they need to really take care of it. The onus is on them They really have to take care of
Yeah, but
themselves.
See, I totally disagree.
Yeah, you can't say that
totally
to them in
disagree.
the moment.
Absolutely.
In the moment, they're going to
They'll
go
play.
out there,
They'll
and
play at
these
any
guys,
cost, yeah.
literally, listen, there's millions and millions of dollars at stake. They're going to go out there and they're going to do as much damage as they can. They're going to say, well, we have to take care of each other more. Listen, these guys are, in the end, it's a paycheck. It's all about winning, and they're going to hit guys as much as they can. And it's not like they're any nastier than they used to be. If you look at footage back in the 70s, these guys, they're committing felonies on the ice.
Yeah, but
these guys are trying to murder each other, you know? So it is not as
and you see that you see that more, you see that even more in football, right? The prestigious not losing your position, not losing your job. You miss 2 or 3 games because of an
you
injury.
can lose your job for sure.
You look at Smith and you look at Kaepernick and you look at what happened there and how he sees the opportunity.
Nobody wants to be a 3rd and 10, third string left tackle. Nobody wants to be that.
Exactly.
You want to get out there.
No hockey player, no professional football player, nobody who plays that kind of intense sport with that physicality is ever going to take themselves out of the game. I mean, you cannot put that. You can't put that onus on the player. You have to take that completely.
There should be a
away
little
from
bit of an onus, but especially with the teams have to be doing more.
Yeah,
as
and the
well.
league too. I think the league has to step up as well. I heard recently instigating or implementing a rule where the person aggressing would be out for the same amount of time, right? If there was a bigger penalty to pay for those types of moves, maybe would discourage them to do it. You look at Steckel on Crosby, right? Why is Steckel playing before Crosby when Crosby's out almost 2 years for that injury, right?
I don't agree with that one. I do agree the way that the NHL does its suspensions for headshots. I mean, if you looked at 2013,
I don't think it's severe enough. I don't think it's severe
in
enough.
2012, excuse me, they had 6 suspensions for headshots. The following year, 16. So at least there's an improvement there. And they take away suspensions. They suspend you for an amount of games. Where in the NFL, if you do a headshot, they'll fine you $50,000.
Yeah.
When you're making $6 million, it's pocket change. Who cares? I'm going to take you out of the game.
Yeah.
And I'll
No
spend that
chocolate
50
bar
grand
for you at night.
Exactly. It's at the end of the
They
road
are
for them.
getting more serious, but I mean, I agree with you. I don't think the penalties for headshots, the ones that are clear headshots where the guy, I mean, yes, it's a fast game, it's a fast-paced game, there's going to be collisions, but you know, if they actually wanted to take some of this out, if they wanted to curb fighting the way they say they want to, the suspensions would be much longer.
Punishment, I don't think punishment's going to do anything. We're talking a matter of science. We're talking about physics here. These guys are bigger, faster, stronger than they ever used to be. The equipment they're wearing is like armor. So obviously the NHL is going to go after the players when some kind of headshot is committed, but they shouldn't be doing that. Make the arenas bigger. Change the basics of the game itself. Can't do that because you're hitting the pocketbook of the owners. Yeah. You can't take away 3 rows in the arena. Yeah. When all you have to do is, I mean, I'm not saying going European size arena, but go halfway. Maybe there's a point. Yeah, compromise. There's a point where you can meet and say, listen, let's take away 2 rows over there. We're going to have less headshots. Players are going to have a little bit more space. If you go to an NHL game and you watch it live, it doesn't look anything like it does on TV. It's really, it's condensed, it's fast. These guys are passing each other at tremendous speeds, and frankly, it's crowded. There's nowhere to move.
You'll have a tough time with the purists, though. Yeah. The purists won't allow that to happen. You know, they want to keep the essence of the game, the record's the same, etc. But I love the energy. Stay right there, guys, because I want to switch topics. I want to talk about team and David Desharnais. You covered the team quite a lot. I want to see what you think about David Desharnais being a first-line centerman. Is he a pretender or a contender? Stay with us. All that and more, all right here on Reid Between the Lines. As a first-line centerman of the Montreal Canadiens, David Desharnais has had his fair share of haters. Safe to say, primarily because of his size. On this week's Pretender-Contender segment, we're talking David Desharnais. We welcome back Andy Bennett, Jay Farrar, and David Hurley, RBTL contributor. All right, safe to say you covered the team quite a bit.
Yes.
A lot of people say his size, but he makes his teammates around him better. Do you think he's a pretender or is he a contender?
Here's the thing with David Desharnais. Do I wish he was a little bit stronger on the puck? Yes. Do I wish sometimes he would just shoot the puck when he's coming in on opposing goaltenders instead of, getting a little too cute with it? Yes. But you talk to some of his line mates. I spoke with Max Pacioretty about him just a couple weeks ago. Tape-to-tape passes, there are very few players in the NHL that can get a tape-to-tape pass the way David Desharnais does. And one of the things his line mates love about him is that not only can he land a pass right on your tape, but he keeps the puck flat on the ice. I mean, there's a lot of things that happen that, we don't see sometimes.
That can be accounted for through points, right?
Exactly,
right.
And these intangibles. And points, I mean, he had 50-plus points last season.
Yeah,
so
but
points-wise,
then again, he's gone missing for 11 games this season where he hasn't had a single point. David Desharnais has a history of not showing up for a lot of big games.
Yeah, but if you can not show up and still end the season with 52 points,
well,
then
number one centerman shouldn't finish. Like last year, he finished 26th in the league in centerman in scoring.
You're
with
calling
52.
him the number one center. Thomas Plekanec might
Thomas
have something
Plekanec,
to say
Galchenyuk
about
have
him.
more points than him, and they both should play center. And I think Galchenyuk should eventually get that role. Not next year, not the year after. He should get it now and move David Desharnais. I'm not a fan. His playoff performances have been inexistent. He's not there to play.
I think he's a contender, and I think he's a contender because of Max Pacioretty. Max alone, if you take a look at his 5-on-5 goal scoring capability, he's only one goal behind Corey Perry over the last 4 seasons. Stamkos, of course, is in his own category, number one with 73 goals. Or you take a look at the average, and you take a look at how he makes the players around him better. And not only that, but face-offs in the offensive zone, he is incredible with regards to being able to control the puck in the defensive zone and winning those draws at key moments, which for the average viewer, the average fan might not notice how important that is. I think it's not only I think it's not only about him. I think it's about what he does to that line. Do you agree?
Yes, absolutely. Every Gretzky needs their Jari Kurri. That he serves a certain purpose. He doesn't fit the typical bill of what a big, strong, number one centerman, Western Conference type guy should be. But he's not afraid to get down low. It does cost him the puck at times. We saw in the series against Boston, he was literally knocked off the puck dozens and dozens of times, and that hurt Pacioretty's performance as well. But in the end, like Andy says, he gets his 50 points, and right now the Montreal Canadiens are the best team in the NHL.
But is that not a worrisome, though, for the Western Conference? You talk about the Western Conference and how they've dominated the Stanley Cup, right? Over the last 13 years, what have they won? 11 times? Or 12?
Very close to
probably 11 out of 13 times.
Right.
Bottom line is that we talk about the regular season, that's one thing. Tape-to-tape pass is the whole 9 yards. But you need a little bit of grit. You need that physical presence. That's the only thing that I would think is a pretender for me, is really about his size. And that's why so many people hate on him for that. Right?
Everybody wants to have a big centerman, and people always talk about that with the Canadians. Oh, we want a big center. Every team in the league wants to have a big centerman. There aren't that many of them. That's the problem. And yes, you look at a team like the LA Kings, sure, they've
got 4.
They have San Jose, you have LA, you have Anaheim.
Embarrassment of riches. And I understand that, but when you look at how can you complain about a team that's leading the league right now? Yes, he's a small centerman, but the Canadians are making it work with certain ingredients that somehow come together and it works. That's what a team is.
I understand what you're trying to say, but the thing is with David Desharnais, like you said when you were talking about the playoff performances, if we go back to 2 years ago against Ottawa, he didn't even have a shot the whole series, or he had one shot the whole series in 5 games. One shot on net from your number one centerman, that shouldn't be happening. And last year, he had 8 points in 17 games. Not that I understand that the pressure's on the number one line and they always have the big Ds that they're playing against, but at a certain point, you got to be starting to do something.
You're always going to be able to.
I still think you should give the opportunity to somebody else.
He's there to get 67 going. That's his prime purpose. And I'm not saying that.
And he's doing a fine job at it.
Well, 67's been doing a lot of lobbying for him. So,
and answer questions in French in the locker room. Let's not forget David Desharnais.
Yeah, he helps out with that as well. And by the way, I wasn't calling Pacioretty Gretzky at all, but I was totally calling Desharnais Jari Kurri.
Okay.
Boy, that's too much love for Desharnais on that one. I wouldn't call him Jari Kurri.
We look at the Canadians and we look at Desharnais. You look at the special ingredients you're talking about, how it's a team effort, right? It just seems as if there's a missing link in the playoffs with regards to having that big line centerman. Over the course of time, do you see, you talked about Galchenyuk, you talked about some key moves. Do you see Desharnais, it's been 4 years now, he's the first line centerman on the Montreal Canadiens. Do you see a change happening? You cover this team inside and out. Do you see a changing of the guard happening right now? Or do you think Thierry really believes in David Desharnais is going to roll with him?
You know, I do think the team believes in David Desharnais. I think they're gonna stay with him. But what I do see is not a changing the guard, but I see a team that is very quick to respond, not in a panicked way, but I like the way the Canadians address their needs. Look, the power play was horrible. What did they do? They went out and they got Sergei Gonchar. Bam, power play is going. And I'm not saying that's 100% because of Sergei Gonchar, but they've addressed needs
pretty quickly. Yeah.
Pretty quickly, and you've seen an effect straight away on the team. So I think they have their guys right now. I think they have their core. I think they have an idea of this identity that they want to have for their team, and they're making it work. And they will address certain things that need to be tweaked as they need to be going forward.
Well, you get final thought. It was great to welcome you both. Where people want to catch you, where can they find more information about you and some of the sports you cover?
Well, definitely on Twitter, so at AndyCBC, and on CBC Daybreak on every morning on 88.5.
Great to welcome you. Thanks for taking the time. Jay, where can people catch you and some of the antics that you're up to?
Antics. I like this set, by the way. Where does Captain Picard sit?
Okay, so that's it. There's your inside. There's a little inside joke, right?
At the Farrar side, you can follow me on. You can catch me every weekend morning on The Locker Room with Abe Hefter on TSN 690.
Thanks for taking the time, guys.
Thank you.
Stay with us after the break. My face-off segment is up next. He's one of 5 players to have scored 150 points in the National Hockey League in a regular season and one of 8 players to score 70 goals. What a pleasure it is to welcome none other than Bernie Nichols to the show. Sporting an LA Kings toque on top of that. Great to welcome you to the show. Bernie, thanks for taking the time.
Oh, my pleasure.
Bernie, I want to talk to you about your 150-point season. There's no doubt it was a high point of your career. When you look back on it now, does it get better with time, especially considering how hard it is to break the 100-point plateau in the National Hockey League?
Well, I think so. You know, I think you have a better understanding how difficult it really was. Going through it, obviously playing, it was so much fun. Scoring every night, it just seemed like so. And not too many at that, and that they can't even get close to it today. So I think as time goes, it even makes it that much better.
Obviously, there's been huge changes in between the 80s and 90s, and you had a chance of playing with Wayne Gretzky side by side. I'm sure a lot of people ask you how it was, and a lot of players will take for granted the nucleus, the team that they had during great years. When looking back at the time that you spent with Wayne Gretzky, how special was it?
Well, it's probably just like everybody could imagine. Anybody who's played hockey before, if they can imagine having the opportunity to play with Wayne, that's what it was. It was. It's so tough to explain because it was amazing, obviously, you know. And the cool thing is for me is I hung with Wayne every day. When we every road trip, Wayne would take me out to dinner after lunch or after practice. We'd go for lunch, and I was like Wayne's shadow for a year, and it was every bit as good as you can imagine.
Well, there's been huge changes, as I mentioned, between the 80s and 90s, especially when it comes to concussions. Early on the show, we were talking about the attitude towards concussions. Do you agree with the fact that there's more concussions now than in the past, or is it just that the attitude has changed, or maybe the attention put on them has changed as well?
Oh, there's not more now than there was in the past. They just didn't ever say it was a concussion before.
There was more ice packs, right?
Wow, I've seen guys get knocked out. I've seen guys get hit, and you get the smelling salts out, you know, count to 3, whatever. And then all of a sudden they put them back in, and, you know, for them, they're doing it right now. You get a knock in the head, you go to the quiet zone. You gotta pass a test to get back in it. It's the way it should be. Unfortunately for us, we didn't have that back then. And, you know, to me, shame on them for that, because doctors should have known that, you know what, the guy get hit in the head, chances are good he's got a little concussion and he should be sitting out until he's better. And we never had that. You know, they do now, which is great.
As a player, do you put the responsibility of that decision-making on the player, on the training facility, on the trainers, the coach, the organization? Where do you put the responsibility to make that call, knowing what you know today?
Yeah, well, obviously you got to put it on the doctors, and that goes through trainers to the doctors. You know, look what they're doing now. Like I said, they got it right now. They got it right in football. They got it right in hockey. You get a knock in the head, you're right to the dressing room. No questions asked. You go to a quiet room. You got to pass a test, a concussion test, before you can come back out in the ice. So obviously the doctors, the league have come up with that. And so, you know, as players, we just want to play. We don't know. I'm not a doctor. I don't know. I get hit in the head. I don't know, you know, what's going to happen with that. Obviously, I'm a little woozy, but if I have someone say I'm okay to play, I'm going to play. But if you have someone that says you can't play, then you can't play. And that's the way it is now. And like I said, they've got it right now, but they didn't have it right for us. You
take a look at social media in today's era and some of the things that you didn't have in the 80s and 90s, and the squeaky clean images that some of the superstars used to have back in the day. Do you think that some of these players would have that image, knowing the possibility of social media, if it would have been around during the era that you were playing in?
Oh, there's no chance. You know, you see now with the cell phones, you get things on YouTube and on Facebook or Twitter right now of guys, the squeaky clean guys that you'd least think they were
the
are
worst.
out. And yeah, it's unbelievable now what's going on. You think you're at a private party with just your friends, and all of a sudden you're on Twitter or something like that. So absolutely, the way it is now with the phones and social media, boy, back in the day, there'd be a lot of people that'd be probably a little nervous right now.
There's no doubt there's a couple of books coming down the line of some players sharing their stories. But you've actually you've turned it out in a positive with a brand new app, which I'm sure you're really excited to talk about. We're excited to talk about it as well. Back as a kid, I remember once a month the Beckett would be released, and that would be sort of our go-to guide for the value of hockey players. You, my friend, are taking it to a whole new level with sort of a stock market for hockey players. Talk to us about this app, how it came about, and the reaction that you've gotten from players and fans across the world.
Well, I think it came about a few years ago. My cousin had asked me if I would help out, because obviously the nuts and bolts of it, it wasn't me, but to open it up to the sports world, I could do that. And basically, it's no different than the U.S. stock market. And the thing is, there's only one professional team in that is a publicly traded company, and that's the Green Bay Packers. So, there's hundreds of fans in Green Bay that maybe have $100 share in the Green Bay Packers, but they have a share in the Green Bay Packers. So, what we've come up with an app. It's asmfree.com, and it's all free right now. You just download it. You get $2,500 of free money to play with, and you can go out and you can invest in your favorite team, whether it's
speculate, right?
Sure. Whether it's the Toronto Maple Leafs, Montreal Canadiens, the Denver Broncos.
Not too sure I put any money on the Leafs these days. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah, that's true. But the cool thing is, it's also if you're it's not gambling, but if you like to think of a team that is going to be successful, maybe the New York Rangers have a homestand and you feel like they're going to win all 5 games. Well, you can buy shares in that team. Every time your team wins, you get paid dividends on every win. So every shareholder will get paid a dividend on every win. So you get action if you want the action. It's not gambling, because if your team loses, you don't lose your money, but it's investing. So the app's amazing. And, I don't know any sports fan out there that wouldn't want a piece of their favorite team, whatever it may be. Just own a $10 share, a $100 share in your favorite team.
We'll absolutely be covering the app and any kind of new feature that you have. Come on back to the show. We want to learn all about it. We obviously encourage you and the app, and it's such a great concept. And you're right. Regardless of sports, regardless of what type of fan you are, there's always a need to be able to speculate a little bit, have a little bit of fun, and follow that gut feeling. So congratulations on that app. Right before we let you go, Bernie, as always, we like to have a little bit of fun with our guests with a rapid fire segment. I'll ask you a series of questions, and you just let me know the first thing that comes to mind. Ready to go?
Yeah.
All right, at the beginning of the show, I mentioned that 8 players scored 70 goals. Can you name the other 7 except for yourself?
Gretzky, Lemieux, Hull, Esposito, Solani, McGillney. How many is that?
That's, you got 7. You got one more. 6, you were missing one more. He played for Edmonton, a little hint.
Curry.
There you go. There it is. If you hadn't become a hockey player, fill in the blank, you would have become a?
I played a lot of baseball when I was younger, so say baseball player.
Greatest tough guy you've ever either taken a body check from or got into a fist fight with?
Well, my toughest competitor was Mark Messier.
And last but not least, the biggest difference style-wise in between Wayne Gretzky and Mario Lemieux?
Paul Coffey probably said it right. They asked Paul Coffey who was the greatest player ever, and he said, how did he put it? Wayne Gretzky was the greatest, and Mario Lemieux had the most talent.
As far as I'm concerned, you're the greatest hockey player. Thanks for taking the time, Bernie Nichols, and we look forward to seeing you and all the changes in your app. Thanks for taking the time, and we'll welcome you back soon.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Stay with us. My rant is up next. You don't want to go anywhere. The Manny Pacquiao and Floyd Money Mayweather fight was supposed to happen years ago. We're now almost in 2015, and the fight is still not even close to having a date. The case can be made that Mayweather deserves more of the blame as he was the first one to duck out, asking Pacquiao to take an unnecessary drug test for no other reason than to delay and insult the world champ. They are both way over their primes, and the fight will be more nostalgic than anything at this point. We wanted to see the best go at it. Instead, we get to see two boxers who continuously regress versus weaker competition and are more than content to sit back and pile up their paychecks. Now, there was a report that surfaced when Mayweather first started making excuses, stating that for every month they waited, it was almost another $1 million to be made due to supply and demand. Just to break down the numbers quickly. Mayweather's rematch with Marcos Medina in September in Vegas sold 925,000 pay-per-views. That is 25,000 better than their May fight, which sold roughly 900,000. Mayweather earned a minimum of $32 million for his decision victory against Marcos Medina in May, and reportedly about the same amount for their September rematch. It should be noted that Money Mayweather controls most of the revenue for the fight, from the pay-per-view sales, ticket sales, international TV sales, sponsorships, merchandise, and closed-circuit sales. So when the full tab is added up, he'll likely earn much more than $32 million. His bout with Canelo Alvarez last year had 2.2 million pay-per-view sales and set a record in revenue, but it was the only one of 4 fights of Showtime to hit the million mark. Manny Pacquiao's memorable fight with Timothy Bradley in April did not reach the 800,000 sales, and the Filipino hero was facing the lowest point of his career. Losing in back-to-back fights versus Bradley and longtime rival Manuel Marquez, it's quite clear Mayweather only fights for a paycheck these days, and rumor has it Pacquiao may have lost a potential $100 million for not hopping into the ring with Floyd Mayweather sooner. Pacquiao claims he's still hungry, but instead of pursuing a 5th showdown with Marquez, he opted to fight Chris Algieri. Though he's a strong fighter, he's also one that's moving up in a weight class to take this challenge. We'll see how much of a draw Pacquiao is on Saturday night, and that could have a lot to do with what happens between the two legends. Even if they do set a date, it will be in a long, long time. Do you think that either of these guys will get into the ring without extensive preparation for what will most likely be their last big fights of their careers? Perhaps the better question is, should we still care? Until next time, thanks for being with us. I'm Adam Reid, and we'll see you next week.
Adam Reid's wardrobe is provided by Carve Clothing, available at carve.ca. Salon services courtesy of Glam Atelier, La Maison de Beauté. Catering services provided by Season Dreams by J. Anthony.